Oh man, this case is crazy, man. I'm doing well, but I'm doing a hell of a lot better than Diddy. Let's get that out the way. Definitely a hell of a lot better than him. I meant to ask, are they confident they're gonna be able to get this man off? That's what I'm asking to win this case. Because you can have lawyers, hold on. You can have lawyers saying, I think they're doing good based on the hand they're dealt. They're doing an excellent job. I'm asking, are their chances improving or dissipating towards getting them? Testimony resumed this morning from a former assistant using the pseudonym Mia. This is her second day of testimony where Mia said Combs physically and sexually assaulted her numerous times when she worked for him.
Stephen A. Smith speaks out about Sean Diddy Combs' trial and the shocking new evidence from old helper Mia. But lawyer Ryan Smith talked to Stephen A. Smith live on TV about Mia's powerful evidence. Mia used to work as Sean Diddy Combs' assistant. He said Mia's claims, especially her accusation of sexual assault, are a big part of the case against Diddy. But her other statements also back the charges of racketeering.
Not only from the perspective that she talks about how she was sexually assaulted by Diddy, which is a big part of the prosecution's case, but it's also part of the racketeering case. Part of what they're trying to prove is a forced labor element of his racketeering case. Essentially saying he had people like Mia working for days in a row under force of threats or coercion. What threats? There's threats that she has over text messages of communications where he's saying, I'm gonna tell everything. Things like sexual assault that she experienced in her mind that might be told to Cassie and others that might hurt.
Smith also said that Mia talked about violent events, like Diddy throwing a computer and spaghetti at her, which made her even more scared. Her testimony backs up some of Cassie's earlier allegations of abuse and gives a more complete picture of Diddy running a criminal organization. This group helped plan events and hide crimes that were reportedly committed by Diddy. According to the complaint, Mia's words are being used to show that Diddy's actions were not one-offs, but were part of a larger pattern of abuse and control in his group.
So what they're trying to put together through Mia's testimony is a couple of different things. First is that there was an element of forced labor going on under Diddy, where people felt like they had to do things that were extreme under force of like threat or violence. She talks about how he threw a computer at her, threw spaghetti at her. That concern led her to be in this forced labor situation. She's also there to corroborate elements of Cassie's story. Cassie talking about the assault she went through, and now Mia talking about what she experienced as part of the overall case of Diddy having this criminal enterprise, having all these people working for him, planning certain things, doing certain things to cover up the crimes they believe he was committing.
Ryan Smith told Stephen A. Smith that Mia's testimony adds even more weight to the case against Diddy. She talked about her time working for him, which supports charges of kidnapping and arson. Kid Cudi's claim that Diddy tried to set fire to his Porsche is a key part of the arson charge. Mia also talked about how Diddy responded when he learned about Cassie's connection with Kid Cudi. She described Diddy showing up with a gun and forcing her to.
Woman talking about everything she went through working for him, working with him, that contributed to the elements of kidnapping and arson. Because you talk about Kid Cudi, that whole situation. We talked about this last week, Stephen A. The idea that Kid Cudi feels that Diddy tried to bomb his Porsche. That's the arson part. So she's talking about all the different relationships that Cassie had with Kid Cudi, how Diddy found out, and the reactions he had. Coming to her house with a gun, forcing her to go one place. That's part of the forced coercion and all of this. And then doing these things like breaking into Kid Cudi's house. She talks about everything that happened there, and that he's then assigned to go and tell him not to talk to the police. All of this works into this criminal enterprise they're starting to talk about here. This idea that he owned or operated and associated this enterprise of doing crimes and had all these people doing things to help facilitate that. When we talked last week, we talked about, hey, where is all of this going? Now we're starting to see, Stephen A.,
Smith claims that prosecutors are now showing that this is more than just abuse or being a poor employer. It is about Diddy directing a network of people who helped him perpetrate or cover up crimes through threats and pressure. Now, there are reports of violence, control, and fear being used to keep people quiet and keep his secrets safe. Mia's narrative describes how Diddy threatened to reveal her background if she did not follow him. Smith noted that this type of behavior meets the criteria of racketeering, which is critical for the prosecution in getting the maximum potential jail term.
It's not just about the accusations of sexual assault, the accusations of being a bad boss, the accusations of doing things, of threatening violence. It's the fact for prosecutors that he is doing all of these things to sort of facilitate criminal activity, and then on the other end, involving all of these people to do these things for him, to either conceal it or to keep it going, and then doing it under force of threats or coercion, saying to people like Mia, hey, you do, or the insinuation is, hey, you don't do this for me, I'm gonna tell everything about what happened with you and me. You do selling somebody else. You don't come with me, I've got a gun, you gotta come with me even if you don't want to. This is the prosecution starting to lay out that most powerful case on racketeering. That's what they need to get the maximum time in jail.
Furthermore, during a lunch break during the trial, a reporter noted that Mia had been on the stand for 2 hours, speaking softly with her head down and a trembling voice. Prosecutors focused on her work hours and meetings with Combs. She claimed she witnessed Combs abuse Cassie Ventura and, along with Deontay Nash, tried to stop him but was shoved against a wall. She also remembered a reception for Prince where Combs attacked Ventura again, leading Prince's bodyguards to intervene. Mia claimed that her job interview was held at Combs' New Jersey home when he opened the door wearing only underwear.
On a quick lunch break, Mia has been on the stand for about 2 hours now. She's very soft-spoken. She's looking down the entire time in the testimony. Her voice is cracking. The prosecutors are laying a lot of foundation with regard to how long she worked for Combs, how many hours she worked a day. She talks about one time when she saw Combs assaulting Ventura, that she and Deontay Nash jumped on his back, tried to stop it. She was thrown against the wall. She's talking about another time when they were at a party for Prince. When Combs found out she was there, they ran through the party, started hiding, that Combs started assaulting Ventura. And then Prince's security jumped in. She talked about her first interview for the job as personal assistant, that it was at his home in New Jersey, and then he showed up at the door with his underwear.
Mia's earlier evidence took a troubling turn when she related a late-night event at 3 a.m. that illustrated the toxic and violent climate within his home while working under forced conditions and living there. Mia informed Diddy that she wanted a time to address a personal issue. She was on her period and obviously bleeding. Her request ended in an angry outburst in front of others. He started berating her before hurling a bowl of spaghetti at her, almost missing her by a few feet. He reportedly chased her down the stairs while shouting. Those present remained mute, frozen with fear of what he may do next.
Talk about what happened during the Diddy trial yesterday. There were several things that came out of it. One of the things that I want to talk about particularly is this incident where Mia, who is one of Diddy's former assistants, that's the pseudonym she's using, talks about when he threw a bowl of spaghetti at her. The thing is, it's actually so much more than that. She was working really late for him one night around 3 a.m. She was living in his house at that time because he was forcing her to do that. And he says, hey, go get everybody, we have to go. So she stands up to turn to her room and she says, hey, I got to deal with something personal real quick. She was on her period and she had blood dripping down her leg and she needed to go change a tampon. And apparently when she told him that, he flew into a fit of rage. He then began a humiliating rant about her in front of everybody. He was already holding this bowl of spaghetti and decided to chuck it at her, missing her by only a couple feet. Then he began aggressively cursing at her and telling her to get the F out of his house. And then when she went to go up to her room, he started chasing her up to her bed.
The fallout, according to Mia, was as demeaning. Instead of addressing Diddy's actions, Bad Boy Entertainment's human resources staff suspended her without pay and blamed her for the event. This encounter, which Mia described in agonizing detail, was not an isolated incident. It was one of a series of violent and vindictive acts that prosecutors claim are part of a bigger criminal pattern. Her testimony gives credence to the prosecution's claim that Diddy's empire was built on power, fear, and intentional abuse.
It doesn't even stop there. This happened in front of so many people who, of course, didn't do anything because they are so afraid of what this man might do. And then what happened after that was retaliation for her job. Basically, Bad Boys Entertainment HR came down and suspended her without pay because of this incident, because she had to go change a tampon. He didn't like that, chased her up the stairs. She's the one that got suspended without pay. This is just one of many deeply violent and dehumanizing acts that he committed against his employees and, of course, so many other people in his orbit. Now, I have more updates coming for this. We have a new testimony that's coming today. Hit that follow button. Drop your thoughts in the comments.
Furthermore, Ryan Smith stated that while the defense is doing what it can, the speed and structure of the case suggests that the prosecution is steadily gaining ground. The witnesses presented thus far appear to be well prepared, and the prosecution team is carefully laying the groundwork for a strong racketeering case. Smith stated that, While RICO charges are notoriously difficult to establish, the consistency and specificity coming from the testimonies show a purposeful and methodical effort by prosecutors to build their case effectively even without TV coverage.
Now, the defense is doing what they can do, but what the speed of this case and the witness testimony I'm reading is showing me are prosecution witnesses that are very well prepared and a prosecution team that is slowly and methodically, but efficiently building that case for RICO. It's not an easy thing to do. And from what I'm seeing so far, or reading, because we're not able to see it on TV, what I'm reading so far, they seem to be doing a very good job.
However, Ryan Smith expressed growing concern over the direction of the trial, stating that things are looking increasingly worse for Diddy with each passing day. Every new piece of testimony appears to damage his chances of avoiding conviction, and Smith believes those chances have now fallen well below 50%, while there is still a possibility that the jury might deliver a compromise verdict by convicting on lesser charges and not on racketeering. The overall trajectory points
It's the scuttlebutt in your profession about how it's looking for Diddy.
Getting worse and worse by the day. Getting worse and worse by the day. And every bit of testimony I hear, it's getting harder and harder for him to get off. I think his chances are well below 50% of beating these charges. And you and I talked about this last week. Perhaps there is a way this jury looks at this, doesn't believe certain witnesses, and does what we call a compromise verdict. We're going to convict on some things that are lesser charges and maybe not on racketeering. That's perhaps something that might happen here. But I got to tell you, Stephen A., what I'm seeing here is this racketeering case being built very well. That's the main part of this.
Smith stressed the importance of how the prosecution presents its racketeering case. Witnesses have testified regarding Diddy's alleged use of threats, manipulation, and compulsion to influence people, as well as his real acts of violence. Smith cited examples of Diddy allegedly saying things like "I brought a gun" or ordered someone to confront Kid Cutie. This type of behavior is consistent with the dynamic seen in RICO cases, in which the central figure avoids direct involvement, while guiding others to participate in criminal acts. Smith pointed out that a jury familiar with the format of mob trials would immediately recognize the similarities.
You have witnesses coming up and talking about, he did this violence, he did that violence. We expected that. What I think is really interesting to me is how these witnesses are testifying that he would use that. I'm going to say this about you if you don't do this. I brought a gun, you're coming with me. You're going to do this with Kid Cudi. You're then going to talk to him and tell him not to talk to police. This is exactly what people say happens in RICO cases. And you got a jury who might be looking at it like, oh, RICO cases, I think of mob cases. I think people have to understand, what do you think happens in those cases? It's a mob boss allegedly telling somebody else to do this, do that. I'm not getting my hands dirty. You're going to do all these things and I'm direct.
On the other hand, on day 13 of Sean Combs' criminal trial, Mia returned to the witness stand and gave detailed testimony regarding her relationship with the music mogul. She said that the first time Combs forcibly kissed her was at his 40th birthday party in 2009. She went on to state that in 2010, he assaulted her in his Los Angeles home. Mia also looked through multiple texts from 2009 to 2017 that documented her fear of Combs. In one conversation, she called him a maniac and described him as very cruel, adding that he went insane on me. She said that she was constantly afraid of offending him, knowing that he may snap without notice.
Scene of the criminal trial of Sean Combs. This morning, we had more testimony from Mia. Mia said on the stand that Mr. Combs first forcibly kissed her in 2009 at his 40th birthday party, and then in 2010, he raped her at his Los Angeles home. She went through a bunch of emails about her time during 2009 to 2017, detailing the terror and fright that she had towards Mr. Combs. There was one message that she called him, quote, psycho, and said that he's so mean, quote, he went crazy on me. She said that she was terrified to make him mad, and at any given time, he could go into a rage.
During cross-examination, Brian Steele, Combs' defense attorney, revealed over 10 of Mia's previous Instagram posts in which she appeared to admire Combs, possibly undermining her credibility. The courtroom watched as Steele questioned the disparity between her online posts and her emotional testimony. He is almost halfway through his cross-examination, and the prosecution is expected to redirect Mia to answer the defense's points. However, Ryan Smith underlined the emotional effect of the testimonials, especially those of young women who described forced labor, threats, and abuse. Smith thought that jurors could be particularly impacted by stories of people like Mia, who was in her 20s and was trying to make a career in the music business. These testimonies not only show criminal conduct, but also emphasize the demeaning treatment of women, which may influence the jury's perspective of Diddy's behavior and intents throughout the alleged criminal business.
Allegedly telling somebody else to do this, do that. I'm not getting my hands dirty. You're going to do all these things and I'm directing. And Stephen A., there's another part of this that I think might resonate with this jury that I think we have to keep our eye on. These are women, in particular young women, coming forward talking about the forced labor, the violence perpetrated on them, the ways in which they were forced to do things at gunpoint, if you believe Capricorn Clark, if you talk about what Capricorn Clark talked about, the things that he would say about them. Will jurors look at this and say, he's treating women like this? I mean, when we think about a mob case, we think different men trying to prove things to other men. I wonder if there will be a dynamic of this, of these young women, in Mia's case, somebody in their 20s, trying to work in the music business and all of a sudden realizing they're in these situations.
Ryan Smith finally responded to concerns about external influence on the trial, stating that outside factors are unlikely to impact the defense strategy as they are bound by the proceedings inside the courtroom. He explained that the judge and jury are what matter, not public opinion or rumors outside the trial, while he acknowledged the possibility that such information might be used later during an appeal. If Diddy is convicted, he emphasized that the defense must stay focused on the facts and evidence presented in court. I don't think it would have much of an impact on the defense other than they too have to kind of go with what's in that courtroom there. They're bound by in that courtroom. The judge is what matters, the jury is what matters. Outside actors do not matter, so for them they got to focus on that. Now could they use that later if Diddy is convicted? They're trying to appeal. If there's rumblings about that, maybe that's a different discussion. Of what I really worry about, Stephen, is what you just said, a juror somehow finding out about this. Smith finished by emphasizing the necessity of keeping the integrity of the judicial process. He expressed real concern that other voices could interfere with the jury's objectivity. He emphasized how uncommon and vital it is in the American legal system that jurors take their responsibilities seriously and are trusted to ignore external noise. He warned that if outside views began to influence jurors, the entire trial's fairness may be jeopardized. That's a slippery slope we don't want to go down, Smith said, emphasizing the importance of keeping a clean and focused courtroom to ensure justice.
I just want to say this, as a person who's practiced law for decades, the courts are just, we don't realize how precious this institution is. We don't realize how amazing it is that we live in a society where people can be on trial and jurors can sit there and they can actually not read anything, see anything, and take the process so seriously that nothing outside affects them. It makes me sad that someone on the outside would say something, maybe you're not realizing how that could taint somebody and possibly taint this process. Because I got to say, Stephen A., and this is not me just saying this is the greatest process in the world. And I know a lot of people feel like courts go against us, go against Black folks. I understand that part of it. I'm just saying, like, the integrity of the court system is so vital to making these cases in any way fair. And if we start having people say things on the outside that could perhaps get to a juror, man, that's disappointing, because that's a slippery slope we don't want to go down.
Mia started working as Sean Combs' personal assistant in 2009, putting her in close contact with one of the music industry's most powerful personalities over time. Mia described her experience as one of a toxic, frequently violent, workplace culture in which she faced physical assaults, intimidation, and mental anguish. She claims that Combs sexually assaulted her regularly throughout this time and created a hostile environment for her, causing long-term psychological injury despite the gravity of the accusations. Mia originally stayed silent for years, fearful for her safety and reputation, after leaving Combs' employment offer, which was reportedly worth $400,000. Mia began speaking out about the assault she experienced. Her court statement is regarded as a brave step toward pursuing justice and holding Combs responsible. Mia's statement has sparked widespread public discussion on workplace abuse, sexual assault, and the difficulties victims face when coming out against powerful figures. Many have praised her bravery in coming forward despite the difficulties. The case has also rekindled debate over the necessity for tougher safeguards for staff in high-pressure star workplaces. The media has given extensive coverage of the trial, with detailed stories on each day. The heightened scrutiny has increased awareness of the problems Mia and others have raised, resulting in a broader discussion about systemic abuses in the entertainment business. Mia's testimony has given a forceful and very personal voice in Sean Diddy Combs' continuing trial. As the trial continues, her tale of claimed sexual assault, job harassment, and psychological suffering reveals troubling claims against one of the music industry's most famous figures. Mia's tale continues to resonate as a testament to the fortitude needed to fight wrong and seek justice in the face of overwhelming power. That ends today's video. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on Mia's testimony? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so leave them in the comments area and remember to subscribe and like if you liked the video. Also, take a look at our other videos on the screen right.